Commander Threxus of the Valorian High Command had witnessed 342 graduation trials in his career. He'd seen cadets triumph, fail, break down crying, and, on one memorable occasion, accidentally set their own tail on fire. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for today. The grand proving grounds on Station Calthara 9 stretched out before him like a massive chrome bowl, its walls lined with observation decks packed to capacity. 15,000 spectators from 47 different species had crammed themselves into every available space, their various appendages, tentacles and sensory organs, all pointed toward the center arena floor. The air hummed with anticipation, translation devices, and what Threxus suspected was someone's anxiety pheromones. "Commander, all systems are operational," chirped his assistant, a young churapan named Vix, whose enthusiasm made Threxus's head frills ache. "The combat grid is calibrated, medical teams are standing by, and the champions are in their holding bays." Threxus nodded, his 6 eyes scanning the data streams floating before him. The 10-champion gauntlet was a tradition older than most civilizations in the Galactic Assembly. Every cadet, regardless of species, faced the same trial before graduation. 10 fights, 10 different combat styles, 10 opportunities to prove you understood the fundamentals of conflict resolution. Most cadets made it through 4, maybe 5 champions before yielding. The record was a. "And the human cadet?" Threxus asked, though he already knew the answer. "Waiting in Prep Bay 7, sir. She seems, relaxed." Relaxed? Of course she was. Humans had been in the Galactic Assembly for barely 15 cycles, and they'd already developed a reputation for being either brilliantly adaptive or completely insane. Threxus hadn't decided which yet. He pulled up the cadet's file on his display. Kira Reeves, 23 standard years old, which was horrifyingly young by most species standards. Born on Earth, someplace called Nevada. Average height for a human, average build, average test scores. Literally nothing about her file suggested anything remotely interesting. Threxus's communication implant crackled to life. "Commander, we're ready to begin whenever you give the authorization." He took a deep breath, his respiratory sacs expanding fully. Somewhere down in that arena, Kira Reeves was probably stretching or meditating or doing whatever humans did before fighting for their academic future. In a few moments she'd face Gareth the Crusher, a 7-foot mountain of muscle who'd accidentally broken his last opponent's spine. Threxus had already prepared the withdrawal forms. "Begin the trial," he said, settling into his observation throne. He had no idea his career was about to get very, very weird. The arena floor shimmered as the combat grid activated, projecting a neutral terrain of flat, gray polymer beneath the blazing overhead lights. From the eastern gate, Gareth the Crusher emerged, and the crowd went appropriately wild. The Krogan champion stood 7.5 feet tall, his rocky granite-like skin gleaming under the lights. His 4 arms flexed in sequence, each bicep roughly the size of a small cargo pod. He'd earned his title by literally crushing a battle tank during his own graduation trial. From the western gate came Kira Reeves. She was, and Threxus meant this with all possible respect, remarkably unremarkable. Brown hair pulled back in a simple tail. Standard-issue training uniform. She walked into the arena like someone heading to a moderately interesting lecture, hands loose at her sides, expression calm. She even waved at the crowd, actually waved, like this was a social gathering. Is she smiling?" Vix asked, zooming in on the human's face. She was. Oh, ancestors preserve them. She was smiling. The starting klaxon sounded. Gorath charged. It was his signature move, a thundering rush that generated enough kinetic force to crack reinforced plating. The floor panels actually buckled under his footfalls, 300 pounds of muscle and rage barreling forward at 30 miles per hour. Kira sidestepped. That alone wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the way she did it. No desperate scramble, no combat roll, no emergency burst of speed. She just took one casual step to the left. Gorath sailed past her, his momentum carrying him a good 20 feet beyond where she'd been standing. The Crusher skidded to a halt, confusion evident even through his rocky features. He turned, recalculated, and charged again. Same result. Step to the right this time. Gorath missed by inches. Is she humming? Threxus leaned forward, adjusting his audio receptors. She was humming, quietly, tunelessly, like someone doing dishes. Gorath tried 7 more charges. Kira avoided all 7 with the kind of minimal movement usually reserved for dodging slow-moving furniture. On the 8th charge she didn't move at all. She simply stuck out her foot. Gorath, all 7.5 feet and 300 pounds of him, tripped. He went down hard, face first into the arena floor with a sound like a small meteor impact. The entire station felt it. Before anyone could process what they'd just witnessed, the medical scanners declared Gorath unconscious from the impact of his own fall. Victory. Kira Reeves. Time 4 minutes, 12 seconds. The crowd sat in stunned silence. Next champion, Threxus heard himself say, his voice sounding distant even to his own ears. Silkweaver Nyx entered the arena like liquid shadow, her 8-legged form moving with hypnotic grace. She was the Assembly's premier speed fighter, capable of striking 17 times in a single second. Her silk strand weapons could cut through steel. She'd never lost a match. The klaxon sounded. Nyx became a blur of motion, circling Kira at speeds that left after images. Her attack pattern was legendary, a mathematical precision of strikes from every angle designed to overwhelm any defense. Kira stood perfectly still. This was, objectively, the wrong move. Standing still against Nyx was like standing still in a tornado made of knives. But Kira just stood there, eyes closed, head slightly tilted. Nyx struck. Her blade-sharp foreleg lashed out at Kira's throat, a killing blow pulled at the last microsecond for training purposes. Kira leaned backward, not a combat dodge, more like someone leaning back in a chair. The strike missed by a hair's breadth. 17 more strikes followed in the next second. Kira avoided every single one with movements so minimal they barely qualified as movements at all. A slight turn of the shoulders, a tiny shift of weight. Once, and Threxus would swear to this under oath, she just sucked in her stomach. This is not possible, breathed Vix. The reaction time alone, the processing speed required. No species can. Nyx, clearly frustrated, went for her ultimate technique, the spiral dance, a 3-dimensional attack pattern that came from literally every direction simultaneously. It had never been avoided. Kira yawned. Not as a technique, not a strategy. She actually yawned, a genuine tired human yawn. And in that moment of apparent inattention, she somehow wasn't where any of Nyx's strikes landed. The Silkweaver collapsed from exhaustion 30 seconds later, her breathing spiracles heaving. She'd burned through her entire energy reserve, attacking empty air. Victory. Kira Reeves. Time 2 minutes, 8 seconds. Threxus felt one of his eyes begin to twitch. Tactician Vorn entered next, the Cerebian's massive brain case pulsing with bioluminescent calculations. Vorn didn't rely on physical prowess. He was strategy incarnate, able to calculate 8,000 possible combat scenarios simultaneously and choose the optimal path. He defeated champions by predicting their moves 5 steps ahead. He spent 30 seconds analyzing Kira, his brain case flashing through color spectrums as he processed data. Then he sat down. "I forfeit," Vorn announced calmly. The crowd erupted in chaos. "What?" Threxus shot to his feet, or what passed for feet in his species. "Vorn, explain yourself immediately." The Cerebian's voice came through clear and unshaken. "Commander, I have calculated 43,722 possible approaches to engaging this opponent. In 43,722 scenarios, the most favorable outcome gives me a 0.003% chance of landing a single strike before incapacitation. I choose not to waste both our time." He stood, bowed to Kira, and walked out of the arena. Kira waved goodbye. Threxus slowly sat back down, his brain struggling to process what he was witnessing. 3 champions down. 7 to go. This was going to be a very long day. The commentary booth had devolved into barely controlled hysteria. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored polymorphs, I honestly don't know what we're watching here," stammered commentator Ralph, a normally unflappable dendrian whose leaves were wilting in real time from stress. "Our analysis team has reviewed the footage 6 times and they're just shaking their heads. Some of them are crying." "Crying might be an overreaction," Ralph offered his co-commentator, a hexapod named Jenna. "No, Gina. I checked. They're actually crying. One of them quit. Just walked out. Said he was going to become a farmer." Threxus understood the feeling. He'd already sent 4 requests to the combat grid technicians asking if the sensors were malfunctioning. All 4 had come back with the same answer: systems nominal. "We're as confused as you are, please stop asking." Pyrokinzira materialized in the arena in a swirl of flame, her energy-based body crackling with barely contained power. The Stellarian champion was pure living plasma capable of generating heat that could melt through hull plating. Her mere presence raised the arena temperature by 15 degrees. "Now this is more like it," Threxus muttered. "You can't just sidestep fire. You can't trip plasma." The klaxon sounded. Zira unleashed a wave of superheated energy that would have vaporized a lesser being. The blast radius alone should have been unavoidable in the confined arena space. Kira walked through it. Not around it. Through it. Like walking through a light drizzle. Her hair didn't even singe. "What?" Ralph's voice cracked. "What?" "The thermal readings. There. I can't breathe, Ralph. Use your words." "The fire is going around her." "Fire doesn't do that. Fire doesn't have opinions about where it goes." It was true. The flames parted around Kira like water around a stone, the heat somehow diverting at the last possible moment. Zira, looking personally offended that physics was betraying her, intensified her assault. Solar flares erupted from her form. Concentrated beams of pure thermal energy lanced across the arena. Kira continued walking forward, hands in her pockets. Actually in her pockets. She'd put her hands in her pockets. Zira went nova, releasing every ounce of energy in her reservoir in one massive, desperate explosion. The arena's heat shields activated automatically. The crowd in the first 10 rows got emergency cool. When the light cleared, Kira was standing exactly where Zira had been, completely unharmed. The Stellarian herself had burned out, reduced to a barely glowing ember that the medical team quickly transported to a regeneration chamber. Victory. Kira Reeves. Time 53 seconds. "I need a drink," Threxus said to nobody in particular. "Sir, you don't drink." "I'm starting." Gravitist Kale entered the arena with the confidence of someone who controlled one of the fundamental forces of the universe. The Nexian cybernetic implants gleamed, connected directly to graviton manipulation cores. He could increase or decrease gravity in a localized field by a factor of 50. He once made an opponent weigh as much as a small moon. The klaxon sounded. Kel immediately cranked Kira's local gravity to 30 times Earth normal. It should have flattened her into a pancake. Kira stretched. A casual morning routine type stretch, arms over her head. "Okay, that felt nice." Her voice came through the arena speakers. "Little tight in the shoulders. You mind doing that again?" Kel's eye stalks quivered. He reduced her gravity to near zero. Kira should have floated helplessly. She didn't. He increased it again. Decreased it. Increased it. Decreased it. He was essentially playing yo-yo with fundamental physics, and Kira just stood there like she was experiencing a light breeze. "Our analysis team has just submitted their official report," Vix said quietly, reading from a datapad. "And?" "It's one word, sir. The word is how, followed by 17 question marks." Kale tried one last desperate gambit, inverting the gravitational polarity to create a localized singularity. It was technically illegal in sanctioned combat, but at this point everyone understood. The Nexian needed answers. Kira reached out and poked the forming black hole. It dispersed. She poked it, a gravitational anomaly capable of crushing matter at the atomic level, and she poked it and it just stopped existing. Kale slowly lowered himself to the ground and assumed a meditation posture. "I require a moment to reconsider my understanding of reality." "Take your time," Kira said pleasantly. After 3 minutes of silent contemplation, Kale stood, bowed deeply, and left the arena without another word. Threxus later learned he'd taken a sabbatical to a monastery. Victory. Kira Reeves. Time 5 minutes, 16 seconds. The crowd had gone from excited to confused, to mildly hysterical. Betting pools were in chaos. 3 different species representatives were demanding full sensor diagnostics. Someone had started a chant of, "What is happening?" in 4-part harmony. Mindbender Cora glided into the arena, her crystalline form refracting light in unsettling patterns. The Scion champion was a master of mental combat capable of creating illusions indistinguishable from reality, inducing paralysis through thought alone or simply reaching into an opponent's mind and convincing them they'd already lost. Finally, Threxus leaned forward. "You can't sidestep thoughts. You can't trip a mental assault." The klaxon sounded. Cora's eyes blazed with psionic energy. She launched her full mental arsenal, techniques that had reduced seasoned warriors to whimpering children. Kira tilted her head, like listening to distant music. "Huh," she said. "That's interesting. Are you trying to get in my head? Cora's crystal body began vibrating at a frequency that indicated extreme distress. Because it kinda feels like, I don't know, like someone knocking on a door but the door isn't real? Does that make sense? Cora intensified her assault, pouring decades of psionic training into breaching Kira's mental defenses. Oh wait. I felt that one. That tickled. The Scion champion made a sound like breaking glass and collapsed, her consciousness temporarily withdrawn into her crystalline core for protection from whatever impossible void she'd encountered in place of Kira's mind. Victory. Kira Reeves. Time 31 seconds. Commander Threxus. Vex's voice was barely a whisper. What is she? Threxus had no answer. His analysis screen showed nothing unusual. No energy signatures. No exotic particles. No hidden technology. According to every sensor on the station, Kira Reeves was exactly what she appeared to be, a completely average human, who had just defeated 6 of the galaxy's finest champions without breaking a sweat. 4 more to go. The observation deck had transformed into something resembling a very polite riot. Representatives from 20 different species were shouting into communication devices, demanding explanations from their respective military academies, scientific institutions, and in one case a priest. The Valorian ambassador had cornered Threxus's assistant, gesturing wildly with 3 of his 4 arms. This is impossible, the ambassador hissed. Humans have been evaluated, extensively evaluated. They're tough. Yes. Adaptable. Certainly. But this is beyond parameters? Threxus offered, watching his career flash before his eyes. Beyond sanity, Commander. I have the Council breathing down my communication channels demanding to know if we've allowed an actual deity into the military academy. Down in the arena, Kira was doing jumping jacks. Actual jumping jacks. Staying limber between matches like this was a casual gym session. Threxus had stopped trying to rationalize what he was seeing. His analytical mind, honed over decades of military service, had essentially thrown up its hands and gone to hide in a corner. He was now operating on pure morbid fascination. It was like watching a moon fall upward. Wrong. Impossible. But you couldn't look away. Send in Phasewalker Tix, he ordered. Vex stared at him. Sir? Are you sure? Tix exists partially outside our dimension. If the human somehow counters dimensional manipulation, at this point, Vex, I need to know. I need to know if there's anything she can't do. For my own peace of mind. The medical teams had given up any pretense of readiness. Their chief physician, a gallantry named Mortian, had watching the previous matches with increasing horror. Commander, Mortian had called up earlier. We're prepared for burns, broken bones, gravitational stress injuries, and psionic feedback. We are not, I repeat, not prepared for whatever is happening down there. The human hasn't been touched. Not once. My entire team is standing around with regeneration pods and healing scanners watching someone exercise between matches. Noted, Threxus had replied. Stay alert anyway. For what? In case she stubs her toe. Phasewalker Tix didn't enter the arena so much as gradually became present in it. The Voidborn champion existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional layers, his form flickering between solid and translucent. He was impossible to hit because he was never entirely in the same reality as his opponents. Trying to fight Tix was like trying to punch a reflection that could punch back. The klaxon sounded. Tix immediately shifted into his combat phase, becoming a blur of semi-corporeal strikes from angles that shouldn't geometrically exist. His fists came from sideways of reality itself, attacks that bypassed conventional defenses by simply not being in the same dimensional space until the moment of impact. Kira caught his fist. The entire arena went silent. She'd reached out casually and grabbed Tix's hand mid-strike as it emerged from whatever dimensional pocket he was using. She was holding something that was technically only 47% present in baseline reality. Oh wow, Kira said, examining Tix's flickering form with genuine interest. You're like kinda here and kind of not here at the same time. That's so cool. How does that even work? Tix tried to phase out of her grip. He couldn't. He tried shifting to a different dimensional frequency. Still couldn't. He attempted a full reality jump, the kind that should have scattered his molecules across 17 parallel dimensions. Kira held on. Okay, no, seriously, you have to explain this to me later, she continued, turning Tix's hand over like examining an interesting rock. Are you seeing multiple timelines? Is that why you can dodge stuff? Because you already know where it's going to be. The phase walker made a sound that didn't translate through any known language matrix. His form began flickering more rapidly, stress fractures appearing in his dimensional stability. Kira noticed. "Oh shoot, sorry, am I hurting you? I didn't mean to." "Here." She let go. Tix immediately phased into full retreat mode, shifted himself into a medical pocket dimension, and refused to return to baseline reality. Through a dimensional communicator, he transmitted his formal forfeit along with a request for immediate psychological counseling. Victory. Kira Reeves. Time 1 minute, 4 seconds. She grabbed him. Ralph's voice had gone flat. She grabbed a being that exists outside conventional space-time. She just reached out and grabbed him. "I saw it, Ralph." "No, but Gina, you understand what that means." "I don't think any of us understand what anything means anymore, Ralph." Threxus silently agreed. His worldview had been systematically dismantled over the past 40 minutes. Everything he knew about combat, physics and biological limitations had been fed into a shredder and set on fire, and he still had 3 champions left. The analysis team had stopped sending reports. Their last message had been a single image, a shrug emoji from Earth's database. Biomorph Rena entered the arena with the cautious energy of someone who'd been watching the previous matches. The Metamorphian champion was unique among her species, capable of adaptive shapeshifting that responded to threats in real time. She could become diamond hard against physical strikes, phase-shifted against energy attacks, or psychically null against mental assault. She was the perfect counter-fighter, biologically designed to adapt to anything. The klaxon sounded. Rena immediately shifted into her primary combat form, a sleek, armored configuration with redundant sensory organs and multiple combat appendages. She approached cautiously, testing Kira's defenses with probing strikes. Kira blocked them, normally, with her hands, like a regular person. Encouraged, Rena pressed the attack, her body flowing through 15 different combat configurations, each optimized for a different attack vector. Slashing claws, crushing tentacles, piercing spines, all backed by adaptive armor that shifted density and composition moment by moment. Kira defended against all of it with basic blocking techniques that any first-year cadet would recognize. This, perversely, seemed to frustrate Rena more than anything that had happened in the previous matches. At least the other champions had faced something weird. Rena was being defeated by fundamental, standard, utterly boring defensive techniques that shouldn't work against her adaptive assault. Rena shifted into her ultimate form, a massive 30-foot construct of living metal and bioengineered tissue that had once stopped a planetary invasion. Kira stepped inside her guard and poked her in what might have been a solar plexus. The entire massive form collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Not from damage. The medical scanners were very clear on this point. Rena had simply stopped. Her adaptive biology had encountered something it couldn't categorize, couldn't counter, couldn't even properly perceive, and had essentially rebooted itself in confusion. Victory. Kira Reeves. Time 3 minutes 27 seconds. The Metamorphian champion reformed into her base state, looked at Kira with all 7 of her eyes and asked the question everyone was thinking. "What are you?" Kira smiled apologetically. "Just a cadet, ma'am. Sorry about whatever I did there." Rena left the arena shaking her head, her form unconsciously cycling through random shapes as her biology tried to process the encounter. Threxus noticed his hands were shaking. All 6 of them. 2 champions remained. He wasn't sure whether he wanted this to end or continue forever. His communication implant crackled. "Commander, we have gambling syndicates from 9 systems offering significant currency for any information about the humans' abilities. Tell them I'll sell them the answer as soon as I figure it out myself," Threxus muttered. In the arena, Kira had returned to her jumping jacks. The galaxy held its breath. The arena went dark. This wasn't part of the normal protocol. This was theater. This was respect. When Warlord Krax entered combat, the lights dimmed in acknowledgement of his presence. Threxus felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Genuine anticipation. If anyone could make sense of Kira Reeves, it would be Krax. Warlord Krax of the Drenith Empire was a living legend. 847 battles across 42 campaigns on 17 worlds. Never defeated, not once. He'd fought in wars that had ended before some of the species in the audience had achieved spaceflight. He was old, experienced, and had personally trained half the combat instructors in the Galactic Assembly. The eastern gate opened and Krax walked through. He was smaller than most expected. Only 6 feet tall, lean, his scaled hide marked with ceremonial scars from countless victories. But the way he moved made every trained eye in the arena sit up and pay attention. Economy of motion, perfect balance, absolute control. This wasn't just a fighter. This was combat incarnate. The crowd's murmur rose to a roar. Finally they would see the human tested by someone who understood war at a fundamental level. Krax stopped at the center of the arena, his ancient eyes studying Kira with the focus of a predator. Kira waved at him the same friendly little wave she'd given everyone else. "Human cadet," Krax's voice rumbled across the speakers, deep and measured. "I have watched your previous matches with great interest." "Oh, thanks," Kira replied cheerfully. "You're pretty famous, right?" "The undefeated warlord?" 847 victories, Krax confirmed. "I tell you this not to boast, but so you understand. I have fought beings of pure energy, hive mind collectives, reality warpers, and time-sensitive. I have seen every trick, every technique, every desperate innovation that combat produces." "That's a lot of fighting," Kira agreed. "Indeed, and I confess I cannot determine what you are doing." Kira blinked. "I'm sorry. Your previous opponents were specialists. They expected their particular expertise to provide victory. I am not a specialist, young human. I am simply a warrior. So I ask you, before we begin, as one fighter to another, what is your secret?" The arena held its breath, waiting for the answer that would explain everything. Kira thought about it for a moment, head tilted. "I guess I just pay attention." The silence that followed could have swallowed stars. "Pay attention," Krax repeated slowly. "Yeah, you know. Watch what's happening, respond to it. Stay present. Don't overthink things." Krax's eyes narrowed. Then, to everyone's surprise, he laughed. A deep, genuine laugh that echoed through the arena. "Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Very well, Cadet Reeves. Let us see what attention can accomplish." The klaxon sounded. What followed was not a fight. It was a conversation. Krax moved with the precision of centuries, each strike a complete thought expressed through motion. High, low, faint, commitment, rhythm changes, distance manipulation. He flowed through styles like water, never settling, always adapting. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Kira met him move for move, not with style, not with technique, with something that defied categorization. She was there when she needed to be, not there when she didn't. Her blocks were minimal. Her counters were simple. But they were impossible, Threxus whispered. "She's matching Krax. She's actually matching Krax." "Commander, our combat analysts are having some kind of collective breakdown," Vix reported. One of them just threw his datapad out an airlock. In the arena, Krax increased his tempo. Faster, harder, more complex. He wove together techniques from a dozen different martial traditions, creating combinations that shouldn't physically flow together. His hands became blurs. His feet barely touched the ground. Kira kept up, her expression calm, almost peaceful. Then Krax did something extraordinary. He stopped attacking and just stood there, weapons lowered, watching her. "You're not predicting my moves," he said, breathing slightly heavier. "Your reaction time isn't superhuman. You're not reading my mind or seeing the future." "No, sir," Kira confirmed. "So how are you doing this?" Kira paused, clearly trying to find words. "It's like when you throw a ball at someone and they catch it. They don't calculate trajectory and velocity and wind resistance. They just catch it. You know?" Krax stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something he'd never done in 847 battles. He smiled. "I understand," he said quietly. "You're not fighting. You're just moving. I mean, kind of?" Krax raised his weapon in formal salute. "I could fight you for another hour, and learn nothing new. You have already shown me what I needed to see. I acknowledge defeat, Cadet Reeves, not because you have bested me in combat, but because you have rendered combat itself irrelevant." He turned and walked toward the exit, then paused. "One question. How long have you trained to achieve this state of, what did you call it, paying attention?" Kira shrugged. "I don't know, always. It's just kind of how I am." Krax's laugh echoed through the arena again as he departed. "Humans, of course it is. Victory. Kira Reeves. Time 7 minutes, 9 seconds. The post-match interview station caught Krax as he exited. The reporter, a brave Zilnarian, thrust a microphone at him. "Warlord Krax, can you explain what happened in there?" Krax looked directly at the camera, his ancient eyes twinkling with something that might have been amusement. No. Next question. But surely you must have some insight into— I have fought for 237 years, Krax interrupted. I have studied every combat form known to the Assembly. I can explain quantum entanglement, dimensional theory, and 17 forms of exotic warfare. He paused. I cannot explain that human, and I suspect that is exactly as it should be. He walked away, leaving the reporter stammering. One champion remained. The anticipation in the grand proving grounds had reached a fever pitch that bordered on religious fervor. Threxus had stopped receiving reports from his staff because his staff had stopped pretending to work. Everyone, from the lowliest maintenance drone to the highest-ranking officials, was glued to their view screens. Master Equilibrium Shen was not introduced with fanfare. She simply appeared in the arena, seated in a meditation pose, hovering 3 feet above the ground. She was ascended, a species so rare that most beings went their entire lives without meeting one. They existed at the theoretical peak of biological and mental evolution, having spent millennia perfecting the balance between physical prowess, mental acuity, energy manipulation, and spiritual enlightenment. Shen herself was 4,000 years old and had achieved what her people called perfect equilibrium, a state where every aspect of combat existed in flawless harmony. She opened her eyes and they contained galaxies. Okay, that's just showing off, Kira said, but she was smiling. Shen rose gracefully, her feet touching the arena floor without sound. Cadet Kira Reeves, I have witnessed your trials. You have faced strength, speed, strategy, energy, gravity, mind, dimension, and adaptation. You have met the legendary warrior. Now you face balance itself. No pressure then, Kira replied. I'm curious, Shen continued, her voice like wind chimes. What will you do when confronted with an opponent who has no weakness? No specialization to exploit. No single approach to counter. Kira thought about it. I guess we'll find out together. The klaxon sounded. Shen moved. It was like watching the universe dance. She flowed through forms that combined everything the previous champions had attempted, but refined, perfected, harmonized. Strength without brutality, speed without recklessness, strategy without hesitation. Energy crackled around her fists. Gravity bent to her will. Her mind reached out even as her body struck. She phased between moments, adapted mid-motion, and fought with the wisdom of 40 centuries. Kira met her in the middle. What happened next would be debated in military academies for generations. They moved together like a conversation in a language no one else spoke. Shen's perfection encountered Kira's impossible simplicity, and neither could overcome the other. For every flawless technique Shen employed, Kira had an adequate response. Not perfect. Not elegant. Just enough. She's not winning, Vix whispered. She's not losing either, Threxus replied, transfixed. The match continued. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10. Neither gained advantage. Shen's expression remained serene, but Threxus detected something in her eyes. Not frustration. Wonder. At the 15-minute mark, Shen disengaged, stepping back. Kira stopped immediately, not pressing the advantage. Fascinating, Shen said, not even breathing hard. You are not my equal in skill. Definitely not, Kira agreed cheerfully. Yet I cannot defeat you. Every action I take you respond with the minimum necessary counter. You waste no energy, employ no unnecessary technique. You simply exist in response to my existence. Is that bad? Shen laughed, a sound like silver bells. Bad? Child, it is enlightenment without seeking enlightenment. It is the goal my people spend lifetimes pursuing, and you possess it without trying. Tell me, do you meditate? Sometimes I space out during long lectures, does that count? The arena erupted in laughter. Actual laughter. The tension that had been building for nearly an hour released all at once. Shen shook her head, still smiling. I could fight you until the stars grow cold and neither of us would fall. This is not a battle either of us can win through combat. She bowed deeply, a gesture of profound respect. I name this match a draw and I consider it an honor. Kira bowed back, a little clumsily. Thanks. You're really good at, well, everything. And you, young human, are really good at being impossible. Result, draw. Time, 15 minutes, 43 seconds. The crowd exploded. Cheering, confused, shouting, several species-specific expressions of disbelief. The betting pools had completely collapsed. No one had predicted a draw with Shen. No one had predicted any of this. Threxus sat back in his throne, all 6 of his eyes wide. Kira Reeves had faced 10 of the galaxy's finest champions. She'd won 9 matches and drawn 1. The previous record had been 8 victories before yield. She'd shattered it without breaking a sweat. The reporters descended like a swarm. Kira found herself surrounded by hovering cameras, thrusting microphones, and very excited journalists. Cadet Reeves, how did you train for this? Regular classes, I guess. What's your secret technique? I don't really have one. Are all humans capable of this? I mean, probably not. I don't know, I've never asked. What were you thinking during the matches? Kira paused, genuinely trying to answer. Mostly I was thinking about lunch. I skipped breakfast and I'm really hungry. The questions continued for another 10 minutes, and Kira's answers remained determinedly, frustratingly unhelpful. She hadn't trained specially. She didn't have a secret. She just did what felt right in the moment. When pressed about her impossible abilities, she looked genuinely confused by the question. Finally, one brave Churopan reporter asked, Cadet Reeves, do you understand that what you just did should be physically, mentally, and metaphysically impossible? Kira thought about it, head tilted in that now familiar gesture. I mean, it happened, so it can't be impossible, right? Maybe it's just, I don't know, improbable? The reporter looked at his colleagues. His colleagues looked back. Someone started laughing, and soon the entire press corps was laughing. The kind of helpless laughter that comes from having one's entire understanding of reality gently disassembled. Threxus made his way down to the arena floor, his official duties requiring him to congratulate the graduate. Kira saw him coming and waved. Commander Threxus, right? Nice to meet you properly. Cadet Reeves, he managed, his voice mostly steady. Congratulations on your successful completion of the trial. Thanks. Did I do okay? I wasn't sure about the last one, if a draw counts as passing or… You did fine, Threxus interrupted. More than fine. In 342 trials I have never seen anything like what you just accomplished. Kira beamed. Cool. So when's lunch? Threxus felt something snap in his brain. Not break. Exactly. More like, rearrange itself to accommodate a new reality. Lunch is in 30 minutes, Cadet. I suspect you've earned it. Awesome. Kira started walking toward the exit, then paused and turned back. Oh hey, do you know if the cafeteria has that pasta thing? The one with the weird sauce? I really like that one. She was asking about pasta. After defeating 9 legendary champions and drawing with a 4,000-year-old master of perfect balance, she was asking about pasta. I'll make sure they have it available. Threxus heard himself say, You're the best, Commander. And then she was gone, whistling tunelessly as she headed off to get food, leaving behind an arena full of the galaxy's greatest minds trying to understand what they'd just witnessed. Commander Threxus sat in his office at 0300 hours, staring at the blinking cursor on his incident report. He'd rewritten it 6 times, each version sounded more insane than the last. He settled on honesty. Official analysis report, trial of Cadet Kira Reeves, he dictated. After extensive review of sensor data, combat footage, and consultation with 17 expert analysts across 9 disciplines, I can conclusively state the following. I have no idea what happened. The cadet demonstrated capabilities that defy conventional explanation. She is not significantly stronger, faster, or more durable than baseline human parameters. She possesses no exotic technology, genetic modifications, or detectable supernatural abilities. She simply, and I struggle to find better terminology, does not lose. Recommendation: graduate with highest honors, and assigned somewhere we can keep an eye on her. Also, potentially investigate other humans for similar capabilities. Signed, Commander Threxus, who is considering early retirement. He sent the report and immediately received 3 responses. One from the Valorian High Command requesting clarification, one from the Assembly Science Council demanding full bioscan access, one from Warlord Cracks that contained only 2 words, good luck. Down in the cadet quarters, Kira's fellow graduates had surrounded her bunk. You have to teach us, pleaded a hexapod named Cirrus. Whatever you did out there, we need to learn it. Kira looked uncomfortable. I don't really know how to teach it. I just react to stuff. But how? Demanded a Krogan named Thorsk. You made Gorath trip over his own feet. Gorath doesn't trip. He was charging really predictably, Kira tried to explain. So I just, foot. The gathered cadets stared at her. Foot. Thorsk repeated flatly. Yeah. A Cerebian named Ven spoke up, his brain case pulsing thoughtfully. I've calculated 73,000 possible explanations for your performance. Would you like to hear them? Not really? Excellent choice. None of them make sense anyway. The legend spread fast. By the next morning, every military installation in the assembly had heard about the human who'd beaten the 10-champion gauntlet. By the end of the week, the footage had been analyzed by combat schools on 40 systems. By the end of the month, pulling a Reeves had entered common parlance, meaning to succeed through inexplicable means. Kira's first assignment came through 2 weeks later. Threxus called her into his office personally to deliver it. Diplomatic protection detail, he explained. You'll be assigned to Ambassador Kelthrin on the frontier stations. It's considered a prestigious posting for a new graduate. Sounds great, Kira said. What do I need to know? Threxus slid a data pad across his desk. Everything is in the briefing. But between you and me, Cadet, the real reason you're getting this assignment is because Command wants you somewhere visible but controlled. They're not entirely sure what to do with you. Kira's expression fell slightly. Oh, because I'm weird? Because you're unprecedented, Threxus corrected gently. In a galaxy of trillions, being unprecedented is remarkable. Also terrifying for bureaucrats, but mostly remarkable. She brightened. I can work with that. As Kira left his office, Threxus allowed himself a small smile. Somewhere out there in the vast expanse of space, problems were waiting. Conflicts that seemed unsolvable, challenges that appeared insurmountable, enemies who thought themselves unbeatable. They had no idea what was coming. 3 months later, Threxus received a message from Ambassador Kelthrin. It was marked urgent. Commander, you need to recall your human. She accidentally prevented a war by, and I quote from my own report because I don't believe it either, tripping an assassin who then fell on the terrorist he was supposed to assassinate, causing both to knock themselves unconscious and exposing the entire conspiracy. She says she was just going to get coffee. Commander, she was getting coffee. How does someone prevent a planetary conflict while getting coffee? Threxus wrote back a single line. That's just what she does. He marked the message, filed it with the 17 others like it he'd received that month, and poured himself a drink. His species didn't traditionally consume alcohol, but he'd developed the habit recently. In the Grand Proving Grounds, a new class of cadets prepared for their own trials. They watched footage of Kira Reeves, studied her matches, analyzed every frame. None of them understood it any better than their predecessors. And somewhere on a frontier station, Kira Reeves sat in a cafeteria eating pasta with weird sauce, completely unaware that she'd become the most discussed cadet in assembly history. The young ensign approached her table nervously. Excuse me, are you the Kira Reeves? The one who beat the 10 champion? Kira looked up, swallowing her bite. Oh yeah, that's me. What? Could you give me some advice? I'm starting combat training next month and I'm terrified. Kira thought about it for a moment, then smiled. Just pay attention. Stay present. Don't overthink it. And definitely eat breakfast before your trial. I forgot and it was super distracting. The ensign blinked. That's it? That's it. The ensign walked away looking confused but somehow reassured. Kira returned to her pasta, humming tunelessly. The galaxy in all its infinite complexity and diversity had finally encountered something it couldn't categorize, couldn't predict, and couldn't explain. And her name was Kira Reeves. She just wanted lunch.